Opensea is dying, and I'm going to say it, good riddance. So Yuga Labs is partnering with Magic Eden to do essentially an exclusive marketplace for Bored Ape. We've got Blur Season 2 coming out on November 20, and when you have a look at Opensea, what are they doing? When you have a look and read through this thread, you can see that they are saying goodbye to some of their teammates. Basically, every other marketplace is innovating, is doing some stuff. Opensea or Brokensea is dying, doing nothing, and they've just dropped a big bag. Now look, down below there are chapters so you can fast forward to the sections that you want to help you navigate the video easier. Also, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Please do your own research before moving in, buying, selling, trading in the NFT space. It's very, very risky, very, very speculative. So what's been happening in the NFT marketplace space over the past few years has just been short of chaotic. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and break through the history of what has actually happened in the marketplace space, where it's gone, where we have come to, and what has actually happened to Opensea. So in 2021, you really only had a couple of different places that you could buy and sell or trade NFTs. Now, one of them was Rarible and the other was Opensea. This meant that if you wanted to get into the space, that's where you need to go. If you looked on YouTube and looked up how to buy NFTs, how to trade NFTs, how to mint NFTs, it usually came down to Opensea or Rarible. Where did you want to go? And because there was essentially a duopoly that was mainly leaning towards Opensea as the monopoly, it meant that they were taking the lion's share of the trading on the secondary market with NFTs. Now, what did this mean? This meant that Opensea was taking a fat bag in the hype of the bull run. Just check this out. June analytics. We can see the volume of USD that Opensea was taking, and Opensea was taking 2.5% of this volume in the peak of the bull run. This is in billions of dollars. 3.1 billion. Another month, 2.8 billion. We then had a crazy month, which was the January 2022, 4.8 billion. So you can see here that they were, for a 6 to 7 month period, there was $2 billion worth of transactions happening on the platform. And what is 2.5% of 2 billion? It is $50 million. Every single month, Opensea was making $50 million. Now, this is where they really dropped the ball because they were the monopoly, because they were the only place to go to. That's where people were buying, selling, and trading. And Opensea had the chance, they had the ability to innovate, to actually do more, to keep that market share. But because they were the biggest, because they were printing money hand over fist, they felt like they didn't need to. They felt like there was no way that they could lose the top spot. And what this meant is it meant that with the inflows of trading that was happening in the marketplace, and you can see here, this is Nansen, you can see all the activity, all the action that was happening. What would happen is over time, Opensea would go down. It was dubbed Brokensea. The fact that when a big mint was happening, when lots of trading was happening, you couldn't actually trade on Opensea. And this got a lot of people frustrated. And this frustration actually led to the development of other platforms. And this is when we get into Era 2, which is the evolution of marketplaces and more decentralized marketplaces, because Opensea did have its flaws. This is when we got the likes of LooksRare and X2Y2. Now, LooksRare had a token. So as you would trade NFTs on LooksRare, you would get the Looks token, and they also had an airdrop to begin with, which then got people to use the marketplace. And then a marketplace like X2Y2 usually had the lowest prices when it came to people trading, but people were still doing the majority of trading on Opensea because there were less fees and things that people could actually do when it came to LooksRare and X2Y2. And now I know I am going to get a little bit convoluted with timelines because then we do have the introduction of Blur, but please just hold with me. After this, we had the gamification of the marketplaces where people saw, traders saw the ability to actually get rewarded from doing the trading on these marketplaces, yet Opensea still didn't innovate and still didn't want to push things forward. They still just let people trade and they racked up those fees and that money. We then had the aggregates like Gem, which is now Opensea Pro, but we had other aggregates where you could do some sweeping, where you could actually use the tool to buy multiple NFTs. This is something that Opensea could have implemented but didn't implement. This is where we started to see innovation in people that wanted to trade, power users within the platform and the space that wanted to do more but weren't able to do it. Then came in Blur, which took in all of these little pieces to combine them into one powerful, crazy marketplace. And Blur, to me, really changed the game when it came to turning non-fungible tokens into fungible tokens with the way that people were able to trade on the marketplace. So what Blur essentially did is it kept shipping products, but it kept innovating in the way that the marketplace can actually operate. Now, this is when we get into the zero fee era, and this is when people see the downfall of NFTs, but I do think that Blur was needed in this space because you needed someone to actually innovate, to actually push forward. Now, the way that Blur got its market share was the fact that it used airdrops and lots of farming techniques. So people were incentivized to trade lots on Blur to then rack up points to then use those points. And the Blur airdrop for season 1 was absolutely crazy. People made quite a lot of money. Me personally, I made $5,000 off that, and lots of people made $10, $20, $30, $100,000. Lots of people did get a lot of money. And this is where the marketplace wars really kicked off and Blur started to really take over. Now, having a look at the marketplace trends, you can see where Blur actually took over. So over the last year, you can see here that Blur is this sort of top color here, this white color, and Opensea is this bottom color. Opensea has basically dwindled. This is over the last year, and Blur has absolutely just taken off. When we look at it over all time, you can see that when Blur came in, it has taken the lion's share of the market, and that is where the majority of the trading actually happens on the market. Now, I know before there are people going, oh yeah, but what about wash trading? Wash trading is crazy. If I turn the wash trading filter off, you can then see that it is even more crazy, even more hectic when we have a look at what's actually going on. And you can see all the wash trading that happened on Looks Rare when people were trying to get the token, and Blur tried to stomp out some of the wash trading. So yes, there is wash trading, but this filter here filters out the wash trading, so it should get you more cleaner data. So for those of you that are going to drop that below, that's that caveat there. Now, Blur did not pioneer the zero fee marketplace. The zero fee marketplace actually originated on Solana. Then Magic Eden and Frank kind of got together to create zero fees. This was to kind of get ahead of everything else. This is with DeGods, and then this filtered over to Blur. So it wasn't Blur necessarily doing the zero fee marketplace, but what this ended up happening is it meant that there was zero royalties being paid on collections, which meant that a lot of projects ended up dying because there was no action in terms of royalties going into their coffers to then keep funding their projects, which is a question for which is a topic for another time. So this then put Opensea on the back foot. They then had to innovate to kind of make some updates. Now you do have Opensea Pro, which is Gem, but then you started to have their launchpad platform like Magic Eden does. You then saw Opensea start to do some functionality when it comes to sweeping with offers, like you do with Blur. And you can see that Opensea then went from being at the forefront to being very reactive and trying to catch up in the market. And what this has then led to is for a big brand like Bored Ape Yacht Club to partner up with Magic Eden, because this would be coming back to honoring creator royalties. This will be one of the biggest hits for Opensea with the amount of volume that actually does happen in the NFT market. Bored Ape Yacht Club is one of the biggest drivers of activity on chain when you actually have a look at some of the statistics. So having a look at the market overview over the last 24 hours, Bored Ape Yacht Club is there. Last 7 days, we're going to essentially see Bored Ape Yacht Club. The last 30 days, we're basically going to see Bored Ape Yacht Club. So Bored Ape Yacht Club is the behemoth, it is the giant, and all of its assets underneath does feed through a lot of trading. And if this trading exclusively goes over to Magic Eden to honor creator royalties, this is the nail in the coffin for Opensea. Opensea will not be able to succeed because I feel like Opensea is too far behind. They just have dropped the ball. They had the amount of cash, they had the amount of money, they were at the forefront to actually succeed, but then they didn't. They rested on their laurels and thought that they were always going to stay but not realizing that there were so many other innovators in this space that wanted to take some of that share. And that's when we saw the likes of Blur come in, but then also marketplaces like X2Y2, Looks Rare come in, and right now even Magic Eden coming in to actually innovate. What is crazy is that Magic Eden has an Ethereum marketplace, but it also has a Bitcoin ordinals marketplace. This is one of those other things where Opensea could have implemented Solana earlier. It could have implemented ordinals earlier. It could have implemented them and implemented it and cornered the market, but they didn't. And this is why I feel like it's a good riddance to Opensea. This is what happens when you think that you're better than everyone else, when you don't innovate, when you don't give the consumers, the people that are keeping you alive, the people that are doing the trading, the people that are giving you that 2.5%, if you're not giving them what they want, they will move, they will change their alliances, because ultimately people want a frictionless experience and engagement when it comes down to trading NFTs, but they want to be heard, they want to be treated. The fact is that Opensea was just joked on about Brokensea, the fact that you couldn't get through to people at Opensea. They had no support. They were ripping in $50 million a month, but they couldn't have a support network for people that were actually trading in the space. Is just terrible. And as a company, I personally feel like they deserve to die because they're not putting their consumer first, and putting their consumer first would mean listening to them and giving them what they want in functionality of a platform, because ultimately it's those users and those consumers that are giving Opensea life. So what does this mean for the entire marketplace overall? Why is someone like Yuga Labs moving over to Magic Eden, and where does this move in the future? With a blue chip NFT like CryptoPunks, what happened with CryptoPunks is they are their own marketplace. They have their own marketplace. So that is where trading happens. What this means is it means that CryptoPunks can't have the likes of a flooring protocol happen to them. They can't have the likes of a Blur happen to them. They can't have any other market forces act on them. The NFT itself acts within its own ecosystem, which I think is where a lot of projects will eventually go to. You will have these blue chip ecosystems that will sort of contract and become their own marketplace, and they will trade themselves to have more control and ownership of what they want for the consumer and the people that are buying, selling, and trading their NFTs. This is where I see it going. The fact is, I think marketplaces in the beginning had the power. They had all of the power. Now we are seeing that the projects are actually the ones that have the power. The projects that do all of the trading, that get the volume, those are the ones that have the ability to sway the market. People are marketplace agnostic. People will go where they are going to be able to make that trade, where it's easier, and where they are going to sort of end up in a better position financially. So what this means, it means that projects actually have the ability to control the market. Yuga Labs, you've got CryptoPunks, and all of these other projects may follow suit. They may build their own marketplaces or form alliances with marketplaces, take some fees, because these are the real winners in the NFT space, not the marketplaces that have been taking a cut and not actually delivering any value to the holders themselves. That is where I see the marketplace wars going, and that's where I see the NFT market as a whole moving forward. Now, something I want to touch on with Blur really quick before I wrap this video up is the fact that Blur has been looked at as the thing that has caused the death of the NFTs. But when I look at Blur, something that has been said that I think resonates quite well is that when you have a product like Blur, what you end up having is the infrastructure for people to do the trading. You have the infrastructure for people to buy, sell, and trade digital assets. Now, right at the moment, we are talking about JPEGs, but eventually when Rolexes, when cars, when houses, when video game assets, when other assets that aren't just liquid JPEGs being traded on the secondary market, platforms like Blur, platforms like Magic Eden will become the the innovators, this is where people will flock to, and people will flock to the marketplaces that actually make sense, because Blur overnight could turn into a Rolex secondary market, because Rolexes could get tokenized, and then you have this platform, this infrastructure right here, right now, ready to go. When you have a look at Magic Eden, they have done Pokemon card drops and reveals and packs. They're already taking the real world trading and physical trading and putting them into these marketplaces that have developed over time. The sneaker flipping that you see on something like StockX could very much come over and be on Magic Eden, because they've got the infrastructure in place. There is sort of DeFi lending with something like Blur. These marketplaces could eventually become the all-encompassing trading of everything that is digital in the space, and that's where I see the marketplaces going. And you will then have the IP and the brands and the assets behind them backing those marketplaces, and we should see a better experience for the users, who ultimately are the people that have the cash, that are funding the projects, that are funding the marketplaces through the fees and royalties that they pay. So that is a look and a breakdown of the downfall of Opensea, why I believe they failed, and why I believe they deserve to fail, as a message forward to show you that the consumer is first. You are first, I am first. We are not second-class citizens when it comes to paying fees and royalties to then get a subpar product. In the free market, people are able to buy and consume what they want for the quality that they want. People aren't locked into monopolies. So that is what the free market is, and that's why I believe that us as consumers should demand more from our marketplaces, just because it isn't fair to pay a fee to get a subpar product. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you go down there, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, let me know what you think below, and tell me how much you hate Blur, because everyone hates Blur. As always, I've had a pleasure making this video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching it, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.